There is a history in games interwoven with human history, starting in the Egyptian Empire 5,000 years ago. Ancient games foretold the Game Boy Color. As a certain game was played, fate was decided in a magical ceremony. This was called Dark Duel Stories. Time traveling to March 19th, 2002, Dark Duel Stories would be uncovered in North America, giving fans of the then fresh series Yu-Gi-Oh! Their first taste in the soon-to-be long line of video games. While being released the same month as the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, Dark Duel Stories was actually the third entry in Konami's Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters series, with the Japanese counterpart being Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 3 Tri-Holy God Advent. Not to be confused with the second entry, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 2 Dark Duel Stories. So yes, in Japan, this game was essentially DLC, but to us in the West, this was our first. Our Pokemon Blue to Japan's Pokemon Green. Kids WB began promoting the game in November 2001 in their Duelin' Monsters giveaway. So between the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, the toy line, and the inherent advertising of the physical card game, a video game, a portable one at that, really tied the room together. Remember, Kids WB was, well, for kids. As such, kids at the time, like myself, loved nothing more than to continue down that long road of fandom each trip to and from school. Granted, I'd never owned this game back then, but I did have a neighbor that did, which allowed me to experience what could be. And that experience is interesting. Like a chunk of TCG video game adaptations like Pokemon TCG, also on Game Boy Color, jumping into a card game crunched down onto a small screen can be a little confusing. Thankfully, with Dark Duel Stories, it's easy to jump into a game because the story mode is nothing more than selecting duelists on a tiered select screen. Beat each opponent a certain number of times to access the next tier, where tougher duelists await. The user interface while dueling against the AI is also simplistic enough to get the hang of things rather quickly. The board is easy to access, and cards have colorful designs that stick out in a way different to the physical game. Some that stay in my head include Rogue Doll, Skull Servant with that yuck 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 face, and the close-up for Blue Eyes, Ultra Dragon. You have 800 cards to play with, so take your pick. This is to say that my hesitations in learning how to drive the car dissipated like footsteps in the desert. The game has more subtlety to offer than what it presents at face value, particularly in how it uses a bunch of systems unique to the video game. Deck points to create power progression and deck building, card construction where you can fuse cards together to make wholly original ones, and an in-game fusion mechanic that works more manually than the TCG's necessity of the card polymerization to access fusion monsters. However, many of these systems are rather cumbersome in actual play. Fusing monsters is trial and error, with you looking like a fool after you attempt a fusion, only to fail and be down one card. The card menu system desperately needs better filtering and or searching capabilities, and the construction mechanic, while fun on paper, is not something I ever felt the need to explore due to the game's password system. By dialing in a specific string of numbers, you can inject new cards or opponents into the game. Card passwords are based directly on the numbers on the physical cards, meaning if you own the cards in real life, you could play them in-game too. In a modern lens, you could simply search any card you need online and build a deck comparable to what your deck points allow. So no need for construction when you can put together exactly what you need from the get-go. By the end, my deck consisted of powerful cards like Jirai Gumo, Dark Elf, and Gemini Elf. Effect monsters also have great capabilities. Trapmaster can set a phantom acid trap hole, Cocoon of Evolution evolves to a stronger monster each turn, and Beast King of the Swamps acts like a dark hole. But thankfully, the game is more than just beatdown. One of the most important mechanics in Dark Duel Stories is the alignment property. Each card has an alignment, which is like types in the TCG. Each alignment immediately beats another one, with the exception of Divine. This makes battling and deck building all the more tricky depending on the matchup. You have to ensure your deck can cover most bases, and if not, then back up with strong beaters, effect monsters, and spell and traps alike. With this, you could even have weak monsters that fit those alignment requirements, yet they cost little points so you can play higher point value cards like Dark Hole or Pot of Greed. It's the most important mechanic in the game and is required to understand if you wish to play through the stages to get to the final boss, Dark Knight. Dark Duel Stories is an interesting game, and it did feel like the right addition of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monster series to import to the West. The simplification of the card game translates well enough to comprehend, and it provokes outside play with friends to duel and trade cards. But within those blanket positives rest the fine details that build up like the bricks that comprise the pyramid. I could not tell you how often I raged when the opponent played Swords of Revealing Light, halting the game to a standstill for turns, only to be met with another one immediately after.
This is like victory music. Oh, you! Cock! Sucking. King of games. Dude! Can you not? Why does everyone have this card? It's like the stupidest card in this game. You literally cannot counter it. It's literally impossible to counter. I believe in you. I'm gonna lose it. I'm losing brain cells against this card. Oh my! Can you stop using this? I'm so done.
It was only after I found opponents who didn't play this card and had a difficult enough AI that I truly found Dark Duel Stories to be a blast from the past. It was a great foundation for Yu-Gi-Oh! Games to evolve from, and even branch off into a unique line of Yu-Gi-Oh! Games that followed the alignment system. Dark Duel Stories walked so Eternal Duelist Soul and the Sacred Cards could run. In short, despite my initial hesitations and subsequent issues, I think all the kids back in March 2002 really did get that lucky draw thanks to the heart of the cards.
Yeah, I think Tristan's secretly Pegasus. What's going on here? That scared the shit out of me. Fury's Fire! Exodia Flame! Boo! Ah!